Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public, but I have the same right, and I've finally decided to exercise it. I mean, mic drop, Stuber Gear. She could not have said this more perfectly, better, more powerfully, or more in a more damaging way for Emma Watson. So did Daniel Radcliffe. He should not escape this either. He was just as disgusting to her. And you know those were the ones that burned. As J.K. Rowling was dealing with death threats and having to amp up her security to protect her family, those are the ones she was thinking about, because we wouldn't even know Emma Watson's name if it hadn't been for J.K. Rowling.
So, after J.K. Rowling fired back hard following years of criticism from Emma Watson, the internet has lit up with reactions. And to be honest, a lot of people are backing Rowling, saying she finally shut Watson down for good. One of the loudest voices jumping in is Megyn Kelly. As usual, Kelly doesn't hold back, especially on topics she sees as part of the woke debate. Her reaction was just as intense as you'd expect. This clash has turned into a full-on cultural moment, and there's plenty to unpack. So get ready, because things are heating up fast.
So J.K. Rowling, after years of holding her tongue, years of just letting these brats run around attacking her, has finally shot back. And it is scathing. It is beautiful, and it is clearly written by someone who's made $1 billion plus.
So, right from the start, Megyn Kelly made it clear that J.K. Rowling's sharp response to Emma Watson hit hard. Kelly pointed out that Rowling didn't hold back or soften her tone. She went straight at the issue. This wasn't a mild reply. It felt more like a full-force statement, the kind only a seasoned writer with years of success and massive book sales can deliver. Rowling has always been skilled with words, and this time she used them with real precision. Kelly clearly respected the intensity, saying that when Rowling decides to respond, she doesn't just speak, she leaves a lasting impact that carries across the wider cultural debate. Now, if you missed what sparked Rowling's reaction toward Watson, take a look at this clip.
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Jo and the person that I had personal experiences with. I will never believe that one negates the other.
So here's the context behind that clip. Emma Watson recently appeared on Jay Shetty's podcast, where she talked about her life, career, relationships, and what might come next. Then came the moment everyone started talking about. J.K. Rowling's name came up. Instead of repeating the same criticism people expected, Emma seemed to shift her tone. She almost sounded apologetic, saying she still cared about Rowling and even called her a friend. But Rowling didn't see it that way. She responded with one of her sharpest statements yet, making it clear she wasn't convinced. Her message came across as a strong reminder that, for her, words don't easily undo what's already happened.
The greatest irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was.
J.K. Rowling doesn't come across as someone easily convinced, and that's a big part of how she's being viewed in this situation. From her perspective, she seems focused on the bigger picture, especially as public conversations and cultural trends continue to shift. As for Emma Watson, her change in tone has sparked a lot of speculation. Some see it as a genuine rethink, while others believe it could be an attempt to adjust to changing public sentiment. It's hard to say what her true intentions are, and ultimately, that's something only she would know. What does stand out, though, is that Rowling doesn't appear moved by what she sees as uncertain or partial apologies. She comes across as someone who reads between the lines and isn't quick to accept a shift in tone without being fully convinced.
Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public, but I have the same right, and I've finally decided to exercise it. I mean, mic drop, Stuber Gear. She could not have said this more perfectly, better, more powerfully, or more in a more damaging way for Emma Watson.
J.K. Rowling's latest statement came across as sharp, direct, and completely unapologetic. At its core, the message touched on a broader idea. No single group gets to control the conversation. People have different views, and those views don't always line up. While many voices call for inclusivity and open discussion, debates often become tense the moment opinions clash. What Rowling highlighted was that contrast. She pointed to how conversations about tolerance can sometimes break down when disagreement enters the picture. Her response aimed to underline the importance of open dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable, and the idea that differing perspectives are part of any real conversation.
My favorite line, I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. Oh my God. It's so effective. Yeah. It's so good. F this woman and her betrayal of J.K. Rowling when J.K. Rowling needed a friend, when she could have used just silence. If Emma Watson disagreed so mightily, and by the way, I don't believe she did. I believe she went along with the woke mob, just like all these actors do. There's no way she actually believes a man can become a woman. It's scientifically proven he cannot. And so even just her silence would have been something, but she joined in.
Megyn Kelly argues that Emma Watson handled the situation differently than she could have. From that point of view, Watson might have chosen to stay quiet or keep any disagreements private, especially considering her long professional connection with J.K. Rowling. Rowling, after all, played a major role in Watson's rise to global fame through the Harry Potter films, where she portrayed Hermione Granger. That history is part of why some people see the situation as more personal than just a public disagreement. Critics of Watson feel she was too willing to speak out publicly and align herself with broader cultural debates, rather than handling things more privately or neutrally. Supporters, on the other hand, would argue that public figures have the right to express their views, even when those views differ from people they've worked with. What's clear is that the disagreement has added a layer of tension to a relationship that once seemed closely tied, and it continues to spark strong reactions from different sides.
So did Daniel Radcliffe. He should not escape this either. He was just as disgusting to her. And you know those were the ones that burned. As J.K. Rowling was dealing with death threats and having to amp up her security to protect her family, those are the ones she was thinking about, because we wouldn't even know Emma Watson's name if it hadn't been for J.K. Rowling.
Megyn Kelly didn't stop with Emma Watson. She also brought Daniel Radcliffe into the conversation. Radcliffe has at times publicly distanced himself from J.K., especially when the broader cultural debate heats up. From Kelly's perspective, that stance raises similar concerns. She points out that J.K. created the world that launched both Watson and Radcliffe into global recognition. Without her work, there would be no Hermione Granger, no Harry Potter, and no franchise that introduced them to millions. Critics who agree with Kelly see this as a lack of loyalty, while others argue that actors are free to express their own views, even if they differ from someone they've worked with. Either way, the situation highlights how personal history and public opinion can collide, especially when major cultural debates are involved.
Honestly, like this, you must call out your dear friend out of obligation, or you're a bad person, or you somehow endorse every thought they have. Unless you publicly attack your friend, you're responsible for all that person's thoughts and opinions is absurd. And I will just say it goes on to this day. And it's wrong. It's deeply wrong. And shame on Emma Watson for bowing to the mob. Good for J.K. Rowling for calling her out. I am clearly on the Rowling team.
Megyn Kelly didn't expect J.K. Rowling and Emma Watson to suddenly align or find common ground. In her view, they come from very different perspectives and approach cultural issues in very different ways. Rowling has remained consistent in her public stance, while Watson has often been seen aligning herself with more progressive voices in public debates. That's why, from Kelly's perspective, Watson's shift in tone comes across as confusing and contradictory. Critics who share that view argue that publicly distancing oneself from someone and later expressing affection or respect can feel inconsistent, especially when past disagreements were highly public. Others, however, see it as growth or a change in perspective over time. Ultimately, the situation reflects how public figures can be interpreted very differently depending on where people stand in the broader cultural conversation.
When Hollywood big mouths suddenly want to be reasonable. No wonder the ancient Greeks considered their profession even lower than telemarketers. But Rowling took that olive branch and used it to smack Emma upside her head. To her, Emma is only coming out because it isn't fashionable anymore. So she's changing her tune like a schizophrenic at karaoke.
Greg Gutfeld appears to take a stance closer to J.K. Rowling in this discussion, and he isn't convinced by the recent softening from Emma Watson. From his perspective, Watson's change in tone doesn't necessarily reflect a genuine shift in beliefs. Instead, he suggests it may be more about the broader cultural environment, where public attitudes and trends around these debates are evolving. In that reading, some celebrities may be adjusting how they speak publicly as the conversation changes, which can make their statements look more cautious or strategic, rather than deeply personal. Gutfeld's view frames it as a question of perception versus intention, whether this is a real change of heart or simply a response to shifting public pressure.
Remember, Rowling was smeared as anti-trans back when that was as unsafe as having unprotected sex with Hunter Biden. But J.K. stood her ground, while the cast of the franchise she created trashed her. Watson, Daniel Radcliffe, Ron Weasley, they all rode her coattails, making unimaginable wealth at a young age. And when Rowling could have used their support, they chose the mob instead. They had a chance to show the courage of the characters they played, but instead, they sided with the bad guys.
Anyway, credit to J.K. Rowling for standing her ground and not backing down under intense public pressure. Despite major backlash, criticism, and online hostility tied to her comments on trans-related issues, she has remained firm in her position. While many public figures tend to soften or retreat when faced with controversy, Rowling has continued to speak openly, showing a strong sense of conviction that her supporters see as courage in a highly polarized environment. Interestingly, the controversy hasn't stopped her professional success. Her books continue to sell, and adaptations of her work still draw large audiences, showing that her cultural influence remains significant despite the debates surrounding her. For some, this entire situation highlights resilience and consistency in the face of criticism. Others see it differently, viewing it as part of a much broader and ongoing cultural disagreement. At the end of the day, this story isn't just about shifting opinions or public reactions. It's about how strongly people can differ when it comes to values, speech, and responsibility in the public spotlight. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.